What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk I want to get a little bit more specific into just life in general. Like the first few videos, they've been all about like overall topics and everything. Today I want to get into something more specific, and that would be stress and how to deal with stress, right? Everybody deals with stress differently. I like to visualize stress and how I deal with it. And by doing that, I'm going to ask you a question, right? That question is, what is heavier to pick up? A bucket on a single string that is 150 pounds? Or is it easier to pick up, picture a stick with 5 or 6 different buckets hanging from the stick with equal or close to equal amounts of water in it that still equals 150 pounds. Which one of those is easier to pick up? Like you're all saying, the stick is the easier thing to pick up because the weight is distributed evenly across the stick, as best as close to evenly as you possibly can. And if you can think about stress in that illustration, it's a lot easier to hold on and carry and deal with stress if you're able to categorize what that stress is, right? There's different types of stress. There's financial stress, there's career stress, there's family stress. You can even split family into two, your intermediate family and your extended family, right? Depends on how close you are with your family members to dictate whether you need that second bucket for family or not. There's other stuff. There's sports, that's stressful in its own regard. Physical stuff, maybe you're an athlete, you got to deal with that type of stress. So there's different types of stress, and if you're able to think about them differently and prioritize them differently, you're going to be able to carry that stress better than if you were trying to just walk around life with a 150-pound bucket on one string, right? That's just, it's easier, it's better physically, it just makes more sense, right? So if the stressful situation pops up, if it needs immediate attention, right? You're working on one project at work, and all of a sudden your boss walks in and says, hey, I need you to help with this project, right? That's stressful. But it's also, you can also handle that right then and there, right? Prioritize which project needs to get done. Clearly your boss just handed you a new project. That one probably needs to help first, right? Just get on it, crank that out, and then move on to the project that you were first on, right? Maybe it's financial stress, right? Financial stress is not a super fast stress that you can get rid of, right? Unless you're one of those lucky few, you hit a scratch off for $20,000. Of course, that's going to make life a lot easier and it all happened in a 5-minute period. But that's not how it works, right? Financial stress is more of a long-term stress. And if you think about it that way, in a long-term stress, yes, you need to let your mind handle that when that time comes, right? I have to pay this bill in a week or two. Where is that money coming from? How am I going to handle that, right? You can easily come up with a plan and then just let that plan run in the background of your brain, and you don't have to waste your brain's energy on trying to solve that, right? Quick answer, all right, maybe I need to pick up an extra shift at work. Maybe I need to go start a side hustle. Maybe the money's already there. You're just like, all right, it's already in my bank account. I just got to shift this over and it's going to go over there. And then you can just put that stress bucket off on the side because it's already been dealt with, right? So stress comes up if you're able to put it into its own bucket. Deal with it in the moment, put it in the bucket, and then move it off to the side. So that way, that new stress that pops up in your life is not going to then dictate the outcome of your day, right? Unless it's a super emergency. Maybe it's a family related thing. God forbid somebody went into the hospital unexpectedly, right? That's a brand new stress that, one, you have also no control over, and two, it's, okay, I need to go take care of this, and then let that stress be present in your brain, right? Because it needs your immediate attention. I got to get to the hospital, right? And then you be with that person and be in the moment when you're with that person. Let your other stresses just keep running in the background, but they're in their own buckets, so they're not consuming you. That's the main point of thinking about stress this way, is not one stress is going to consume you, right? Unless it's that ultra emergency, then it can consume you. And that way you're able to go and carry about your day almost, in a sense, stress-free, right? Because all of your buckets they're in a bucket for a reason. And that way you're able to, it's not, like I said, I can't stress this enough, pun intended, that you can't let stress consume you. You cannot. Like, when you're at work, that work bucket is clearly most important, right? You're at work, you're working, you're solving problems, you're doing your job. That stress is obviously going to be in the center of the stick, and you're carrying that one the most at that moment. But it's also, right, you're helping your financial bucket by working. So you have to know which bucket is the priority in that moment, so that way the other ones are not weighing you down. Right? Some people deal with stress better than others. Like me, my fiance she doesn't get mad. I think she's more jealous than anything else. The fact that I don't let things stress me out and consume me, right? Because of how I think about it, it's just hanging out on that stick. You know, all my stress is, you know, like I said, financially, we're scraping by financially. And, you know, I deal with that when it needs to get dealt with, but I don't let it consume me to the point where it ruins my day, right? Or I'm distracted when I'm at home. So if you're able to think about stress on that stick with however many buckets you may need, you're going to have that ability to never let anything consume you when it comes to stress-related things. That way, like, for example, you're at work, you're doing your work stuff, you clock out of work, you can now move that work bucket to the end of your stick where you don't have to worry about it until the next day or your next shift, whenever that is. And then when you get home, you're at home, right? Now you have the family stress. And not all stress is bad either. You got to remember that too. Like, helping your kids grow up and teaching them how to be better. And, you know, when you got toddlers at home, they're chaotic. They're all over the place, right? Again, stress that you can't control. And that's the point, is, okay, now that bucket is the one that's in front of you, right? You get to be present in that moment. Yes, it may be stressful because your kids are off the wall, but the other stresses are not weighing you down, and you can focus on that bucket. And if you're able to move your buckets around, like I have the ability to do, it's going to make your life so much more peaceful, right? And that's the main point of life, is being peaceful, right? You want to be able to live in that moment, even if it's chaotic with your kids or it's chaotic at work. If you're able to stay centered and not let the other things that are not that important in that moment, you can stay focused on that task, and that's going to win for everybody. Your kids are going to see that you're present, right? That's the most important thing when it comes to kids, is making they feel like they're your most important thing at the moment, right? Work, right? People are always, oh man, he's always focused when he's here. He or she is always focused when they're here. That's because you know that the other buckets they're off on the side. The only stress that's happening is work. So you're always present in the moment. Your coworkers, your bosses, your friends, your family, your kids, everybody's going to see that you're able to stay present in that moment because you're focused on that moment, and the other stresses in your life, they're off in the background. They're not consuming you. Let me know what you guys think about this. I know nobody's gonna be perfect at it the first time that they think about it this way, right? You gotta take some fine tuning for you. You gotta remember your life is different than everybody else's. What works for me, you might take the overall concept and apply it differently to your life. And that's the point of this channel. We're trying to help everybody get better. So let me know what you think about this topic. It's a little bit more gear centered in on like a particular gear. And, let me know if you want me to talk about something that's going to help you out, right? This community is meant to help each other. Let me know what you want me to talk about next, and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys in the next one.